on the ground, echoes of the sound, ashes of the past form the present, and the future is now. They can't wait till another goes down. I am the path of destruction, and I'm here right now. Now's rolling.
What's going on, Bucklers? Welcome in from my brand new home studio. Not from the School of Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Charlotte this time. That's right, almost a year in, your boy finally got himself a microphone and some equipment to be able to record this at home. Ain't that awesome? And speaking of a year, we're sitting here in April, and next month in May will be, I believe the first episode of this show was uploaded the 28th of May, and we're approaching a year here on this show. A year. I made it a year podcasting. And that's something special to me, because honestly, I really did not know what I was going to do with this show, because I was just going to start it as something to do to make sure I got my hours in so I can graduate from the school on time. And it became something that I wanted to continue to keep doing, and here I sit almost a year in after numerous topics and 26 total uploads. I mean, if you want to count the update episode before episode 13, here I am still doing this. And I don't know, I guess I can credit my diligence to sticking with it, even though with the simple hiatuses I had in there, here and there. And I can credit you guys with constantly hitting me up with those downloads and the feedback on Twitter and on Facebook and things like that, and private messages and things on other forums. And I appreciate even the people who, didn't think it was their cup of tea initially. This has been a good journey for me, and I'm really going to stick this out. I really like to thank all of you, as always, because, I mean, you know what I say. We're constantly all in this together. Here we are, and a year into this, maybe we'll continue this as long as I have the drive to do it. I have the will to do it, and I still see the uploads and downloads keep coming through, because you can't have these numbers. I mean, I know this was a show initially just for not necessarily the hardcore fan, but more the traditionalist, somebody who wanted something different in wrestling commentary rather than over the top, bashing and name calling and things like that. But honestly, I believe some of the hardcores may have tuned into this to get a different perspective on things, because you can't get the numbers that I've seen on this show just from the traditionalists alone. Not at all. So if you are one of those type of people that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of who have tuned into this, I appreciate all of you as well, because you can't ever really grow if you only preach to the choir. I will always say that. And I know what my choir is, and they're always going to be loyal. But if you aren't necessarily agree with me 100% on everything, I know that it may have been a struggle for you to get through some of these episodes, but I appreciated you for tuning in as always. So where do we go from here today? So the last time you heard from me, it was before WrestleMania weekend, and things got in the way, and I could not upload any reviews of the shows that were going on that weekend, guys. I totally apologize. I know I've been a little bit quiet on social media too, but life happens, things happen, and you just got to deal with them as they come. And my intention was to, I have all my pages of notes still with me from G1 Supercard, NXT Takeover New York, and WrestleMania 35. I intended to upload a show reviewing all three of those shows, maybe individually or something like that. But honestly, just things got in the way. I could not get to it. My bad on that. And it's been so long, but y'all always know I'm going to come back, right? You do know that, right? So you're probably listening to this, and I appreciate you still being here. But what I'm going to talk about today is a show I actually just attended. This is Sunday, the 28th of April, a month out from my year anniversary of uploading my first show. And the previous night before, the 27th, I actually attended the Crockett Cup 2019 in Concord, North Carolina here, of the rebirthed NWA, set up by Billy Corgan. And the show was also co-produced with Ring of Honor. And some of you may have heard about it. I may have mentioned it before on another show or something like that. Maybe you've seen it come across. If you're a wrestling fan, you've probably seen it come across your social media streams and things like that. But for those of you who don't know, the Crockett Cup was just a tournament with a trophy and a cash bonus at the end of it. It was held, the last one was held back in 1988. and the winners of that were Lex Luger and Sting. And it was only held 3 times. And honestly, I really thank Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana and those guys for actually bringing this back and putting some extra stakes on the line for this. Because it was announced yesterday, the day of the tournament, on social media, that it wasn't just going to be a trophy or money this time that the participants would win. They would be the inaugural new tag team champions of the new version of the NWA. So it ended up being an 8-team tournament, and I'll just run through the card for you little by little. But I'd like to just say, though, having the NWA, those 3 letters back here in this area of the Carolinas, is really, really important to somebody like me. If you recall from episode 1, the intro, you would understand that it was tag team wrestling from the NWA that got me into being a fan of wrestling in the first place. Like I said, my very first match I ever saw was the Road Warriors squashing a couple of jobbers. And the Rock and Roll Express versus the Midnight Express probably was the rivalry that defined my childhood fandom of wrestling. Tag team wrestling, I believe, is super important to the business. And I believe my growing up and my as being a fan of tag team wrestling probably forms my opinion on that a lot. Because I honestly think there are been some really good tag teams that have come along through the years. But this era of tag team wrestling right here has taken such a back seat to singles competition because everybody uplifts their favorite so much, which is why a lot of times you will hear I don't want my fave being lost in some random tag team or things like that. A strong tag team division can really uplift any promotion more than anything, because it allows more people on the card, it allows more people to get shine, and to be able to develop a camaraderie with somebody else as a singles wrestler, it probably will enable you to get more television time, because tag team wrestling is seen as more of a mid-card act a lot of times, but you understand, the mid-card act in between the main event and maybe the opener, you're going to get more spots and you're going to get more time. Because a lot of times, maybe your main guy, he's not going to always be there. But the tag team in the mid-card will always be there. So you'll always have a spot. Your spot will always be cemented in a certain type of way. So, like I said, this era of tag team wrestling right here, it seems like an afterthought. I mean, you have certain teams the Usos are good. The Revival's good. The Young Bucks do what they do. The Briscoes do what they do. And I'll probably get to those guys later. I'm really hoping there is a actual tag team revival that comes into this sport. There's so much emphasis from the hardcore fan base today on single wrestling and single pushes and everybody getting a shot with a title, or everybody getting a chance to run with the title. Like the world title is supposed to be some type of baton that you're passing back and forth between your favorite wrestlers. As long as, it's like these people don't even care sometimes, as long as their fave, gets some type of recognition. But that's not how it's supposed to be. Tag team wrestling shouldn't be viewed as as a punishment or something like that, which is why I think a lot of them view it as. Tag team wrestling is an excellent way to develop your craft. Honestly, I didn't like the pairing of Sheamus and Cesaro initially, but those 2 guys really didn't have much to do, but they made it work for them. Same thing with the New Day. Those 3 guys really weren't going to go anywhere at the moment, and I'm not going to be able to get into what happened with Kofi at WrestleMania on this show. But congrats to him on accomplishing becoming World Heavyweight Champion. You've seen little by little single stars being put in groups or being put in tag teams can do for them. It can, like I said, and if you're able to do that, maybe there's just no need for everybody to become this huge single star or be this huge singles, get this huge singles push. There has to come a moment where tag team wrestling isn't deemed as purgatory or deemed as a punishment just because you're put with somebody else or make it seem like it's something random. That's how it was always projected to me in the 80s. It always seemed like it was important. That's why the Road Warriors are considered, in my opinion, are probably on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, not just tag team wrestling. Those 2 guys, they were so huge and so, they were megastars as a team. Neither of them was going to be a singles guy, ever. Everybody always puts Hulk over because he could talk, but Animal was the one who did the more athletic stuff and did the comebacks and things. But Hulk always stood out more because he had the catchphrase and he had that voice. But that's a story again for another day. Y'all know I ramble sometimes, but here I am. This is me. Y'all know what I do. The fact that they brought this back, it brought back a lot of memories, and I really, like I said, I hope this leads to something else and more levels coming for the NWA. Hopefully, everybody's hoping AEW does what they do. I want the NWA to be more popular. I want them to be that company. I don't think they'll be a New Japan status. They are the original version of WCW technically, but that's the company I want to succeed. That's the company I hope there's a wave coming and they ride it, and fans come in and understand what they're about, and fans jump into that. And maybe this show right here, because I saw a lot when I was there at the Crockett Cup yesterday. I saw a lot of AEW shirts. I saw a lot of Elite shirts. I saw tons of Marty Scurll merch. So you understand the fan base that was there, because it was a Ring of Honor joint promotion. But there were also a lot of older people my age and a little bit older there, and you know who they were fans of. You know what they were there to see. They were there to see the pageantry, and they were there to see the history. Matter of fact, so let me just stop rambling real quick. Let's just get into what happened on the show. And like I said, this was a really cool show. This will be the first time I'm actually reviewing a show for you on here. A show that I actually went to, because I don't go to a ton of live events anymore these days. I got a life now. The whole thing started with a tag team battle royal. The brackets were all set for the actual tag team tournament. There are some singles matches on the show, but the whole thing is built mainly around this tournament. So the bracket was technically set, but there was a wild card team that had yet to be announced. So what they ended up doing was having a battle royal to determine who would have the last wild card spot. And what ended up happening was the team that ended up filling the spot was a team of Royce Issacs and Thomas Latimer, who most of you know as Bram from TNA or Impact Wrestling. And Royce Issacs is a guy I'm actually a fan of. He's an independent guy from Colorado who I actually got turned on to from Vince Russo working with a company that used to be known as New Revolution Wrestling before they turned it into Rocky Mountain Pro. And when I saw that guy, he's a stud. I think he should probably be in Ring of Honor by now, or at least in Impact. I think he's that good. Look up his work. I'll probably link his social media or something in the description of this. Y'all know what I do. And they got the final spot. So the show opens with Bandito and Flip Gordon facing Guerrero Maya Jr. and Stuka Jr. Now, this right here is your typical opening match for shows that are going on in the indies and stuff these days. This was the flippity doodah dive ... fest. The high spot this, high spot that. This is the one that gets the crowd hyped up, and that's what that was. And honestly, Bandito and Flip Gordon, before the tournament again, this was my team to pick to win it all. We'll get to that at the end, of course. There was a lot of crazy stuff that go on in this, man. I'm not going to bore you guys with stuff that happened and match quality. Y'all know that's not what I do, right? So Bandito and Flip Gordon go over, and like I said, there was too many crazy spots in that for me to go over. I can't even pick one that stood out, but yeah, this was the work rate fest. This was okay, let's get y'all hyped up, let's get it going. Bandito, I swear to you, people love talking about Ricochet and Will Ospreay. Bandito is the heir apparent, and no pun intended, to the best high flyer in this business. That kid there, was he 23 years old? That's a bad boy. I mean, go Google some of the highlights of that. That guy right there can go. He does some crazy stuff. So these are all first round matches. So then Royce Issacs and Latimer, they defeat the War Kings, Crimson and Jax Dane. That was a really quick match. Some of these were a little bit longer than others. Like I said, the first match, of course, being that was the Flippity Doodah Fest, that went long. But nothing crazy happened in that match. And then this is when business picked up in the next match. It was the Briscoes, J.M. Mark, versus the returning Rock and Roll Express. Yes, the WWE Hall of Fame Rock and Roll Express. Introduced by Jim Cornette and everything. I mean, they came out first before the Briscoes, and everybody just got on their feet, started clapping, started chanting rock and roll. Man, that was so awesome. I videotaped the entire thing. It was, even Jim Cornette. Hey, Jim Cornette, unblock me, bro. We don't need to do all that. I walked right past the guy. Honestly, Jim Cornette seems like a decent dude, but y'all know what happens. But unblock me, dude. Come on. All because I said you kneeled and kissed the grapefruits of Vince McMahon so you and Eric can get on that table for three. You know that guy don't like you. I didn't say literally. You know I meant figuratively, right? But anyway, and then they're out there cutting a promo in the ring, talking about how glad they're still to be doing this, how they became WWE Hall of Famers without ever actually wrestling for the dang company. That was good stuff. And the Briscoes come out there cursing and things like that. We about to send your old A's out to pasture and things. You know how the Briscoes do, especially Jay. I mean, that guy right there, he talks some ish, period. But that was also a quick match. But honestly, watching Ricky did majority of the high spots because he still moves fairly well. Robert was always the bigger guy. Robert, it was one of those classic little NWA matches where the babyface team keeps getting double teamed and the tag gets made and the ref didn't see it. It was a classic. It was an NWA 101 match, but the Rock and Roll Express eventually lost. However, I mean, they missed the double drop kick on Mark Briscoe, and it still looked great, and I still popped for it. To see the Rock and Roll Express live, I haven't seen them live since I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old, so that was really cool for somebody like me. I mean, for nostalgia's sake, I couldn't top that. I knew they weren't going to win. It would have been cool if they did, but I mean, it would have been a shocker. But those guys, you know, they're not going to wrestle more than once in a night at those ages. Have those guys come out there, get that ovation they got and the pops they got. Watching Ricky do suicide dives and Hurricane Ranas, and Robert tried to get the comeback, but they failed. I mean, they fell to the Jay Driller and the Froggy Bow, like most guys do. But props to those two guys. I mean, it was cool for me. I mean, I got plenty of pictures of that, and got goosebumps seeing those guys. Like I said, those guys are part of my childhood. I mean, they were probably one of the main reasons I had to go. I had to see this. Rock and Roll Express. Rock and roll forever, guys. Next match, Villain Enterprises. That's Brody King and PCO. They were facing Kojima and Nagata from New Japan. Villain Enterprises go over in this match. That match ran a little bit long too. And I'm going to tell you something here. It's so crazy. As much as people don't like to put over, this era fans and critics don't like to put over the Attitude Era, one of the guys who's the most over on the independent circuit right now, or that lower circuit of wrestling, whatever you want to call it, is PCO. And for those who don't know, PCO is Pierre Carl Ouellet. Yes, the Carl Ouellet from the Quebecers. From the Attitude Era, or, you know, the tail end of the, I guess, dark ages, you might say. One of the most over guys on the entire circuit is from that era. Let that sink in for just a second. Would you ever be able to believe something like that would ever happen? This guy right here at his age, who's probably about to get a Ring of Honor title shot if I'm not mistaken, I mean, was just a Ring of Honor tag team champion going into Madison Square Garden at G1 Supercard. This guy right here, I mean, Brody King's a stud, don't get me wrong, but all the chants are always PCO. Every single chant a lot of times with their wrestling is for him. And I'm pretty sure Brody don't take it personal or nothing like that, but it's crazy. I'm just like, y'all know you're cheering for a guy that came from that era, right? I mean, he really doesn't do much of anything that you find impressive. I don't know. It's just, the more things keep progressing in this era, the more I'm just realizing, I don't know, maybe these fans will come around eventually. But, I don't know, I really don't have much faith in that a lot of times. But Villain Enterprises go over. That was a very rough match. Lots of chopping. You know, there were lots of red chests in that match. And you know how the Japanese strong style guys, you know how they do. So then we had a slight little intermission from the tournament. The vacated women's NWA championship, Jazz, who had the title for like 2 years, she had to vacate it for health reasons. And it was going to be contested between Sienna, Allison Kay, and Santana Garrett. And Allison Kay went over in this match, and Medusa actually presented the winner with the title. Medusa, yes, the Medusa, who I believe is the greatest women's wrestler of all time. And honestly, I'm so glad they invited her there for that, because, like I said, she's part of the history of that company, the original NWA company too. And to see that's incredible for me. She's somebody else that I admire a lot, and just so much nostalgia everywhere. Just so much. I mean, just great personalities. These are people I just enjoyed seeing just because they are who they are. Incredibly just humbling to see all that. Okay, so then we get on with the semifinals of the tournament. Royce Issacs and Latimer actually defeated Flip and Bandito. who I had picked to win the tournament. So, and you should hear the rumblings from the crowd after that team got beat. They were like, "Oh, no way the wild card team is going to win." I mean, it was actually booked really well. They didn't necessarily do it clean, but they took out Flip's legs, and Royce crawls under the ring and manages to stop Flip from getting the tag to Bandito, and they steal one. I mean, the crowd started booing, and it was just so crazy, man. I was just like, they're like, "Oh, no way this unknown wild card team is going to win." It's like, just to get those rumblings going. You got to understand, that right there is just simple, good booking right there. Like I say, that shocked the crap out of me because I picked Flip and Bandito to win. Because if you look at the history, other than the first one when the Road Warriors won it, I mean, the other two were just random teams thrown together of 2 stars, and they took it home both times. You know, Sting and Luger and Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff. Same thing they've done with the, I guess you can say, the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic NXT. The first one was won by, who was it? Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. Like I said, not an actual team, but just 2 stars coming together to take it home. And then recently, I think, who was it? Ricochet and Aleister Black won the latest one. I mean, like I said, usually a tournament like this, that's what it comes down to. So I just like, okay, let me just see which the oddball team is with the 2 bigger stars. I just figured they would have given them a good rub, those 2 young guys, to give them that. But they decided to go somewhere else, as you'll see when it comes down to who wins. But then we go to the other semifinal matches, Villain Enterprises versus the Briscoes. This right here, I don't bore you with match quality, no. But I'll be honest with you, this was the match of the night. This match right here was very well put together, even though it ended in a disqualification. I mean, the Briscoes ended up getting themselves disqualified by hitting Brody King with a chair. But the optics of this match, how physical it was, the spots they did. I mean, there was a spot where both teams were standing off on opposite sides of the apron, slapping chairs on the apron, on the edge. And the optics and the sound of that was just incredible. It was really, really cool. And in the end, after the Briscoes basically just beat the holy crap out of both of the guys after they got disqualified, and Jay gets on the mic, cuts a scathing promo, talking about some F the NWA and things like that. Like I said, even down to that made that whole 9 minutes, maybe almost 15 minutes, really worth it. Like I said, it was a very good, it was a very well done match. Maybe, I hope they upload it online sometime. Maybe they'll put it on YouTube or something. But honestly, to me, that was a very good match. And that was probably my favorite match of the night. You know, even if it did end in disqualification. I know a lot of people these days don't like non-clean finishes, but honestly, who cares, man? If it entertained you, if it did what it was supposed to do, good for it. Next singles match for the NWA National Championship, which is their version of the U.S. title or their mid-card or secondary title. It was Colt Cabana versus Willie Mack, who was the champion. Colt Cabana actually won in a very back and forth match with some crazy mixed spots. And Willie Mack, honestly, this guy right here, I think he's ready for big time. Like I said, Colt Cabana is good where he is doing his podcast and doing the lower shows. I think Willie Mack deserves a bigger platform. I mean, he has been on Impact, don't get me wrong. I think they need to bring him to the PC. The guy, honestly, he plays the I don't look like a wrestler and I do crazy stuff way better than Kevin Owens ever can. But honestly, I also believe that because of the fact he's a bigger, quote unquote, rounder black guy, I don't know if Vince would know what to do with him. He would do something crazy with it. I don't know. I don't even think Triple H, as much as people love to put him over, I don't know if he would know what to do with him. But I'm like, a guy like that, just let him do what he do, but show him how to work the on-TV style that they like to do. Willie deserves, I don't like using that word a lot of times, but honestly, I think he deserves a bigger platform, even if it is just in NXT. But Colt Cabana actually wins the match and it was, like I said, I can't remember the exact finish for it, but it was an interesting little back and forth match. According to the timestamp here I'm looking at on Wikipedia, it didn't go over 9 minutes. But honestly, it was a very entertaining match. Both guys did their stuff. And, Colt got the win at the end when he reversed a frog splash or roll out or something like that. It came out of nowhere. It was a shocker. And Willie was the inaugural champ. And now we finally have a second one. So good on Colt Cabana. And I don't know, maybe that'll mean Willie can move on to other things in other companies. Because we don't know what's going to happen with Lucha Underground. He's been a staple there since season 1. But we don't know what's going to happen with that. There's going to be a season 4 or whatever. But after which, though, I did not see this coming. James Storm came out to congratulate Colt Cabana. And most of you, if you don't know, James Storm actually wrestled Nick Aldis at the Tennessee show a few months ago. And he lost to Nick Aldis then. But he comes out, cuts a promo, and said if he wants to hold the 10 pounds of gold, he might have to take Colt's championship first. So he's like, the next guy you're probably going to wrestle is me. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to see him there. That came out of nowhere. I mean, he comes out there. That guy got a thick country accent. Let that dude go on the mic. I'm like, yeah, just let him talk and let him be himself. But after that, we get I believe Caprice Coleman's in the ring, and then he brings out Nikita Koloff. And Nikita Koloff brings out Magnum TA, and the Crockett's are all outside. They all take pictures after they bring the tag team titles and the trophy down to the table, because the finals of the tag tournament are about to come up next. And honestly, seeing Magnum TA wheel himself out there in that motorized scooter, I mean, I almost teared up for a second. I'm I'm not really the most emotional guy, but that was a little emotional for me because Magnum's career ended very young. I mean, the guy was on absolute fire before that car accident happened. And it's just, I don't know, just to see him there and him and Nikita together, it just brings back memories. This whole event right here, it just meant a lot to me as a fan. I mean, it just brought the kid back out at me. I just started thinking about all these old memories of the Crockett Cup and all my old favorite NWA memories and things like that. Maybe I should do a show on certain things, but you gotta understand, a lot of that stuff happened when I was like 5 and 6 years old. I might not remember a lot of it, but hey, there's a lot of archiving YouTube stations out there, so maybe I can find some. I'm like, oh, I remember this, I remember that. But that was so much fun, though. It was to see these guys out there talking about their memories, talking about their competition, what they've been doing since. Just, again, thank Billy and Lagana and those guys for putting on this event and just bringing the people out that they did for this. It's just awesome. Villain Enterprises goes on to defeat Royce and Thomas, and they are the inaugural tag team champions for this version of the NWA, and they win the Crockett Cup. And honestly, I really thought this was going to be a preview. When I saw that they were pretty much figured they were going to win, I thought this was going to be a preview for the main event. Because we know Villain Enterprises is led by the one and only villain himself, Marty Scurll, who is wrestling Nick Aldis, the champion, who holds the 10 pounds of gold in the main event. I'm just like, holy crap, Villain Enterprises is about to walk out of here with all the gold. I mean, literally, I really thought that in my gut. But Nick Aldis and Marty Scurll wrestle for the 10 pounds of gold, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for the last match. Of course, this match went the longest, 24 minutes basically. And even down to the entrance, it's an amazing, whenever you see two characters that are like ridiculously juxtaposed to each other, even with their entrances. Marty comes out there, his entrance is like all dark and this brooding music, and you hear his fans do the the whoop whoop chants and all that stuff. But then you got Nick, who comes out here with gold lighting and all this. It's like, it's like, I'm the golden boy of this business now. It's just like total juxtaposition, and it looked really cool. It's just like light versus dark. But Nick Aldis gets busted up in that match. I don't think I've ever seen him bleed, like ever, even when he was Magnus in TNA. It's just, I don't think I've ever seen him bleed. But honestly, I think it may have helped the match a little bit, because blood was flying everywhere, even in the still shots of people who were the professional photographers who were there, and I've seen them post the pictures on Twitter. This blood was just flying off with the chops, and it was a back and forth match. Marty pulls Eddie Guerrero by getting Camilla Kane thrown out, by making it seem like she tripped him, but she didn't. And rest in peace, Eddie, but Marty decides to go into his bag of tricks and do that, and the ref throws Camilla out. She comes out later when they're both down, and Nick actually stops her from interfering in the match. He's like, nah, I want this to end clean. I mean, good storytelling between two guys who know each other very well. I mean, I see the story they were trying to tell. Nick's the big brother. He's bullying Marty and everything. Marty's like, I got to pull out all the stops. He even hit Nick with Crossroads, Cody's finisher. I mean, I don't know if that's a precursor to where he's going, but we know eventually he's going to end up over there. His ROH contract's probably not up. Marty's going to be in AEW eventually. PCO and Brody King, not sure. But we know Marty's going to have there. He already has a shirt with them, for crying out loud, which I saw a bunch of those last night as well. But Nick Aldis eventually defeats him. Marty doesn't pass out. He taps out to the Kingsland Cloverleaf in the center of the ring. Because once Nick is huge. He's 240 pounds, 6'3". When he sits down on that move, a guy as small as Marty, he's not getting out of that. Nick did fight off the chicken wing submission and everything. He's strong enough to do that, but you get the story they were trying to tell. I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm better than you. You got to pull out more stops than I have to beat me, which you couldn't do. But, I mean, I know, if you're not going to put Marty over at MSG, there's no way he's going to beat a headstone champion like Nick Aldis in a town like Concord for the 10 pounds ago. It's not happening. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded if he had actually pulled it off in MSG, but he didn't. And good promos at the end from both of them, talking about their journey, 15 years, knowing each other, where they started at, and lots of, the vignettes you've seen for them, I might link them in the description as well, with the story with those two from 10 pounds ago, showed that they have on the NWA YouTube channel. They do excellent storytelling there, but that's probably because of Billy Corgan's vision and his ability to shoot music videos and things like that. He knows what he's doing. And the talent there is so open, they make it seem as real as possible, even though it's a work. And every 10 pounds ago has gotten better since the first few with Tim Storm. Every single one just gets better. And every single show that this company puts on as this newer version of the NWA gets better. So if you haven't checked out some shows or just anything, just check out the 10 pounds of gold shows online on YouTube. This is me putting it over. This is me sending you there. It's a nostalgia thing for me. But honestly, I think it'll be something different for a lot of you who may not have checked it out yet. I just look at shows like this sometimes. I know everybody can't end up in the WWE, but the WWE is on television consistently. And sometimes I just believe there are certain people who just need to be on television, and they don't need to lower themselves to where they are. I know Nick Aldis had a tryout before, and Vince Russo and guys like that believe that it was probably Terry Taylor who said something about him being difficult to work with, but we know what the truth is. You can't have Nick Aldis in your company and him not be the champion. Just look at that guy. Everywhere else he's been champion. And that's probably what's going to happen if he does go to a company like the WWE. He's going to be champion. Your chosen one is going to get pushed to the side every single time when that guy is on your roster. You can't have that guy miring away, jobbing to people who look lesser than him. Okay. Like I said, I see him, I see Santana Garrett, I see Willie Mack, I see Royce Issacs, who should probably be in a bigger, lower level company. The Briscoes. I believe the Briscoes are done with ROH. They've got to be on bigger TV. They deserve. They'd have to tame down their language, of course. I even think they know that. They'd probably be professional enough to do it. Just certain characters and certain talent. I'm just like, they need more exposure. If you paid your dues enough on those lower levels, bet on yourself. You can do it in the way that Cody did, or you can just do it in the opposite way and just sink or swim in the big league. We've talked about that back in the Shackles episodes about big league money and are you really making a certain amount of money or not. But certain talent, I just believe, I don't know. I think they deserve a little bit more than what they're allowing themselves to have, even, if that makes any sense. Don't hold yourself back. I can understand that maybe if the company's holding you back, but don't hold yourself back. Don't do that. You think you deserve better? Say so. That's why it's called grabbing the brass ring and not hand me the brass ring. But we'll get into that another day, of course. This was for nostalgia's sake, and everything I saw, I hope the NWA continues to progress. And I hope that more talents are going to come there and maybe work, or maybe they're going to get their own TV deal or something like that eventually. Just something small. Maybe not. Just take the organic approach to it, and maybe they will be the number 2 eventually. Again, I just have way more faith in that than I do in a company, technically run by a bunch of the boys and a bunch of marks. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to watch regardless. As I said before, an elitism. But again, we'll see what happens. Quick housekeeping note. Real quick before I go, like I said, I'm a month out now from my very first for my 1 year anniversary here on this show, and I'm gonna go over my shows, all of them before this one, and I'm gonna probably give out some of, I don't know, I guess give out rewards or something like that, but maybe just go over how I felt about certain things. What was my favorite one, what was my least favorite one, my favorite sound bite or quote I may have said. I don't know, maybe just review my show for myself in general. Because there's nothing wrong with a little self-introspection sometimes. For a 1 year journey like this, I can, maybe I deserve to do that for myself. So I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. So be on the lookout for maybe 1 or 2 shows I'll see come. Maybe a best of show or something like that, maybe coming soon. So keep your eye peeled for that. I know I may have mentioned something about some merch or something soon. Haven't been able to get to any of that either. But keep your eyes peeled for that, please. Because honestly, I still want this to grow. So I still want this to get better. I have to treat it like it's going to be better. So as always, stay tuned. I know you guys will. And that's as the buckle turns for this week, everybody. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in as always. And just remember, just keep following me on social media. Make sure you keep up with all the updates and everything. Make sure you're following me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like I said, like the page on Facebook. This is available everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts or your favorite podcast directory, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, limited episodes on SoundCloud. Just type in the name. You'll find it. Put it in your RSS feed. Always get the updates. Always remember we're all in this together. So let's keep doing this together. So until then, this is Adrian. That's Buckle Turns. See you next time.